Let's do this.
It's time for Hanging with Langan.
I like that she's got a big dirty mouth that gets her in trouble.
Wow.
Stop me, 'cause I'm having a good time.
Hey, you guys, how are you? You're hanging with Langan, Maureen Langan here. So happy to have you here. If you're watching the show for the first time, you know the routine. Curiosity meets comedy, fun, smart. That's the way we roll. Everyone from academics to alcoholics and in between. So what I want you to do is, if you're watching this on Facebook, please share, start a watch party. I have a fantastic guest in store for you today. She's a comedian, a writer. Debbie Kasper will be joining us soon. 2-time Emmy nominated for working on the Rosie O'Donnell show. She was a sitcom writer for Roseanne, and she has a fantastic book coming out called You're Not That Pretty and Other Things My Parents Told Me. So it's crazy life. She grew up in Jersey. She's a Jersey girl like me. Want you to share this, okay? Also want you to know, if you're watching this on the timeline, what I'd like you to do is also like my page, Maureen Langan comedian page, because we're tapping out on the number of people we can have on the timeline. Am I bragging? Not really. I'm just telling you that's how it works on the .com. So please head over and join the page, so that you will always be connected. And by the way, Facebook banned me from my Hanging with Langan page, so I'll get back to that in a few days. 1 month, because my friend who was a comic from Maryland living in Rome made a joke about her father having a nightmare, literally was sleeping and had a nightmare about Trump, said some crazy things about him, but it was a nightmare. She was just telling the story, so bam, I am banned from my own page until December 8th, I believe. So again, we'll keep you posted. What else did I want to tell you? All right, I'm going to introduce my guest now. I'm going to start with a clip here of her stand-up. I'm my own one-man band. You know this, don't you? That's what I do, my own tech. Here we go. This is Debbie Kasper, and this is a clip. Here we go.
And I'm a little insecure. You know, I have low self-esteem because I recently gained 10 pounds 4 times in a row really fast. My boyfriend is like so pissed at me. We fight all the time because he's Sicilian and I'm thin crust. But he's younger. Younger men make much better lovers. You know why, gals? Because their life stories are much shorter.
I love that clip, Debbie Kasper. Let me give you a proper introduction. Her book, You're Not That Pretty and Other Things My Parents Told Me. I'm telling you, it is hilarious. I'm 3/4 of the way through the book. Scathing, but it's also poignant. It goes deep. She's honest, but man, she can, woo! Award-winning, Emmy-nominated writer. She begins the stories in the 50s, her chaotic family, through the 80s. She grew up in New Jersey. So let's welcome to Hanging with Langan, ladies and gentlemen, comedian, writer, Debbie Kasper.
Hi. If you're not already sharing this, share it, share it, share it. Get on, girls and boys.
Definitely share this, you guys. It's the least you can do for Debbie. Deb, thank you for being here, Jersey girl.
Thanks for having me, Jersey girl. I'm so excited.
Well, here's the deal, Debbie. I grew up in Northern Jersey. So you grew up where?
South Jersey. Total. They should cut the state in half. Totally different.
I was just going to tell you, you're not really in New Jersey. You're really Philadelphia.
No,
you're in Pennsylvania.
I'll take Philly. You know nothing about cheesesteaks. That's all I know. People.
Hello. Let me tell you this. I dated a guy from Medford near Philly. He took me for surf and turf. So we went and got mussels and a cheesesteak. I'm like, you're kidding.
Well, Medford is the town next to where I grew up. So we're the cheesesteak capital. Cherry Hill.
Oh, yeah. Cherry Hill.
You're right. 8 miles from Philly.
Mm-hmm. And
a wonderful city. Totally undervalued and undervisited. You know, when people come to America, they go to New York. Nobody comes to Philly. It's an incredible place.
Well, it's also a straight shot right down to Atlantic City, about 45 minutes or something like that.
That's exactly right. Are you a gambler?
I hate gambling, and I don't even like the casinos, but I like performing at the Borgata. That's what I like.
Yeah, the Borgata's nice.
And I like jogging down to Margate. They have a lovely library with a statue of a man named Harry. That's what I got.
You're from Philly?
Yeah, from Philly. I jogged from Philly. That's what I just keep running. So Debbie, I want to talk about your background. We'll get to your book. So here's the deal. You grew up in Jersey. I think you and I had similar parents, perhaps. The title of your book, You're Not That Pretty. Talk to me about where that title came from.
Well, my parents were intellectual snobs. They weren't intellectuals. You know, it's not like they sat around in the library reading Voltaire, smoking pipes. They played Jeopardy, but they did not want stupid kids. And by the time I was about 5, my father, by the time you were 5 in the Kasper house, you had to be able to name every state and every capital. So I conquered that because I had a good memory. But then the IQ tests came out. They gave everybody IQ tests in those days. Somehow Dad smuggled them out of the school. And I guess mine weren't very good. My older brother was a genius.
Oh.
And my dad gathered the family up and he goes, okay, well, as suspected, Reed is indeed a genius. Debbie, and everybody started looking at me like I was dying. You know, Debbie, you're just not that bright, but it's okay because you're pretty. Well, I guess my mom, who was kind of an early feminist, didn't want me to, you know, trade on that. So she said, well, you're not that pretty. You better study. So I got the message that I wasn't that pretty. I wasn't that smart. By age 10, I was on my first diet. So then I was not pretty, not smart, fat. When I went off to college, my mom, I mean, literally, my mom was practically on the front stoop with a bullhorn going, don't you find a husband, Debbie? You better study. And I'm like, well, I don't know how I'm going to find a husband anyway, being stupid, ugly, and fat. Who's going to want me?
Well, you know what's interesting? Because my mom is from Ireland, and they...
That's shocking.
Sorry?
That's shocking.
Oh, I heard a name like Maureen. Like somebody said to me, "What kind of name is Maureen?" Like, oh, I'm from Uganda. That's where my people are. You know, Debbie, my mother, same thing. Get your education. Get your education. That was so important, and I think because they didn't have the options that we have. And like you, my mother always said, "You have more choices than me. You don't have to have children. You don't have to have that." Yet now I don't have them. She's like, "Oh, you would have been a great mother." I'm like, "Make up your mind."
Exactly. My mother said, don't have kids, Debbie. You'll just end up hating half of them.
Let's do a clip of your mom. I have a clip of your mom here. Here we go. Debbie Kasper's mother. Here we go.
So my mother calls me up last week, leaves this message on my answering machine. I just took a self-esteem test in Reader's Digest. You failed. Well, thank God your father's dead. Oh, he'd be so disappointed in you. And he loved you so much, his last words were about you. He said, tell Debbie she's getting fat. Well, we're all kind of disappointed, you know. You went out to California to get a TV show. Every day I turn on the TV. Where's Debbie? That's what they should call your sitcom. Where's Debbie?
Gotta love how parents build you up, right, Deb?
Yeah. Children are very impressionable. We have a subconscious, and this is the smartest thing I'm going to say, so don't get nervous. We have a subconscious that is a sponge, and we hear everything. Our subconscious takes everything that we receive our entire life, and it's in there somewhere, and it helps weave into who you are. So if you have kids, just tell them they're fantastic.
Well, then that does the other thing. You walk around with people who are like, you got to be kidding me. How did you get to feel so good about yourself?
Exactly. Well, I guess the millennials have been told from day one that they're all kings. You're a king. You're a princess. They all have this sense of entitlement. I don't know if you've noticed that.
I'm even noticing with some people I grew up with. I mean, what happened to you? Like, they walk around and you go, wow, okay, I got to get some of that confidence. Debbie's book, it's called You're Not That Pretty and Other Things My Parents Told Me. It's a memoir of sorts. You guys, I'm reading it. I'm 3/4 of the way through. And if you don't believe me, I've taken notes. Look at this. I've what do you call that when you do the pages?
Earmark, dog ear?
Yeah, that I dog-eared them. I think we had the same kind of parents, but very different styles. My mother, I remember saying to my niece, gosh, you're so pretty. And my mother goes, stop it. You're going to give her a big head.
Yeah,
Like, what?
exactly.
And your
Yeah,
dad smoked the Lucky Strikes?
Yeah, dad with the Lucky Strikes, mom with a non-filtered cool, till she went on a health kick and smoked 3 packs a day of filtered cools and never let us forget it.
She got healthy. She got healthy, Deb.
How about a health kick? Margaritas, no salt. Cigarettes, filters.
She was conscientious, Debbie. You're very critical of your mother. She was doing the... All right, your book. What interests me is you are scathing, man. You can write. You are like knife sharp, in there, no bullshit. And then you talk about really poignant things like meeting a sister named Susan. So talk about that.
Well, when I was about 12 or 13, my dad, I had 3 brothers growing up. When I was about 12 or 13, my dad left the house and said, I'll be back at 5. I'm bringing a surprise. We're all like, oh boy, we're finally getting a dog. Oh my God, I'm getting a puppy. And my mother's like, you're not getting a dog. You know. So we all lined up at 5 o'clock, and Dad walked in with a 16-year-old hippie. And said, this is your half sister, Susan. And of course I threw a fit, and I'm like, what do you mean? And as I mentioned, I wasn't that bright. What do you mean half? What do you mean half sister? I don't get it. I don't understand. Well, she has a different mother. Well, who's her father then? So basically my father just threw us a half sister party and brought her into our lives. And a couple years ago, she started having mental issues, ended up having several nervous breakdowns, and was diagnosed as a manic depressive, and then, died, as we all do eventually.
But she was young when she died.
She was young. She was very young.
How old was she when she passed?
About 37 or 38.
Because when I was reading your book about Susan, I have goosebumps. You can see her descend into what the illness was going to be for her. And according to your book, she was on lithium, which destroyed her kidneys, which led to her death. And as she got sicker, she didn't know. You walked into the room once and you said you didn't recognize her.
They had her on lithium for years. And if you know anything about mental disorder, which I hope you don't, which was what they used to call bipolar before the marketing people got their hands on it. But manic depression, they gave everybody lithium. And it was great that they had the lithium because she was out of her mind before that happened, and it calmed her down. And she was relatively, you could relate to her. And then after about 5 or 6 years, because it's not a forever drug, her doctor told her, this is all behind her back, so we don't know any of this. Her doctor told her that she was burning out her kidneys and she had to get off lithium or go on dialysis. Well, she took herself off her lithium. She went to the Vermont Board of Health. She took possession of her own health care. Nobody could ever force her to take any medication she didn't want to. She took herself off her lithium and went insane. She went stark, raving mad. And she would call me up in New York and say things like, Debbie, the Nazis are watching you.
Oh boy.
They've got a swastika on the top of your car, so they're following you. They know who you are. And she ended up in a mental institute, and she would call me up from the mental institute and say, my sister had long, beautiful brown hair. And she'd say, they're pulling out my hair when I'm sleeping and making wigs to give to the inmates. So I'd say, all right, I'll come up, I'll investigate wig scam, and I would go see her. And she just one time I went to visit her, and this isn't funny, it's horrible but true. And everybody was trying to talk her to get back on her meds, and she wouldn't have it. She just decided that she'd rather die than be on dialysis. And that's exactly what happened. And I walked into a room. She was living in a halfway house, and she had her fingers in her ears. She was sitting in the middle of this stark room with her fingers in her ears. And she turned around and she saw me. And her nickname for me was Sissy Boo. I was her little Sissy Boo. And she said, "Hey, Sissy Boo, guess what? My fingers touch in the middle." And then she started cackling. I mean, it was it was a lot for me to take. And I had actually just sobered up. I had quite a drinking problem in the 80s, and I had just sobered up. And this is what I was dealing with because my dad had died. And this has gotten depressing so fast.
No, but you know what? It's real. It's sad, but it's real. And what I love about your book, what's the name of her book, Maureen? I just tuned in. Oh, don't worry. I'll tell you. It's called You're Not That Pretty and Other Things My Parents Told Me, Debbie Kasper. If you're watching this right now, share it. If you're watching this on Facebook, just share it. Ask people to start a watch party. I also want you, if you're watching it on my timeline, like the page. If you like the page, because that's where we're going to be getting more numbers of people. We're tapping out on the timeline. You know, Deb, why I like your book, and we have to have dark humor. I do anyway, and I know you do reading your book. There's no way, like Wiggate. That's dark because your sister's insane, literally, and you're making a joke about Wiggate. I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because how do you function if you don't make jokes about it?
Exactly. That's how we release our total fear. Fear of dying, fear of anything, fear of losing your sister.
Of course.
I was brought up in a house that was very humor conscious. I mean, there was no intimacy. Nobody talked to each other, of course, until Susan came into our lives, because she had no problem saying, "I love you." And we were like, whoa.
With this love word, what is it?
We don't talk like that around this house.
Well, you know what's too, one of the things I lament about stand-up right now, of course, there is no stand-up right now. My last stand-up gig was March 12th. And by the way, any of you want holiday parties, online Zoom comedy shows, I'll put it together. We'll get Debbie on the show. Believe me, we'll have a good time. It'll cost you a lot of money, but don't worry about it. We'll sort it out. You can say whatever you want, but my God, sometimes the backlash to speaking freely is an effing nightmare. I'll give you an example. This is dark humor. Okay, you're talking about the pain of Wiggate. I know it's, and I know people who have, it doesn't matter, but I had a lot of miscarriages. Oh, forget that topic. So people said, I had 5, and people said, do you know why you had so many? This is dark, okay? But, hey, guys, if you can't handle dark, go away right now. Bye-bye. People said, do you know why you've had so many? I said, yes. Every time Keeping Up with the Kardashians gets renewed, my kid kills itself. Dark. Yeah, people don't like that, but that's how I deal.
I one time I was in Vermont doing stand-up, and I did a very funny joke that I'm not going to say because it's really offensive.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm going to let you finish your thought, but in the after show on Patreon, we're going to let you tell that joke if you're open to it in private. If not, we're going to talk about a comic back in the day who came on to both of us. Creepy. I think it's the same guy. I don't know who it is. Debbie didn't tell me. So that we're going to reveal that in patreon.com/Maureen Langan. That's a community-based subscriber platform. So for $5 a month, you can get in on the Carol Burnett level. And at the Dolly Parton level, you'll get these behind the scenes. That's $10. You'll get behind the scenes, dish the dirt, stuff like Debbie and I are going to talk about at the $10 and up level, like what creepy comic came on to us. We'll talk about that. You won't get that here. And if you go up to the Phyllis Diller level, I will send you, what will you send me, Maureen? I'll send you a Don't Make Me Hate You t-shirt. Damn right I will, for $25. And everything's on MaureenLangan.com. You can also, I'm doing my commercial break, Debbie. You can also support and keep the content coming if you don't want to do a monthly subscription, you cheap F. You can also, I have great people. They're so supportive. You can go to paypal.me/Mo Langen and Venmo @Mo Langen. And of course, patreon.com, Maureen Langen. I appreciate it. You guys, we're all out of work and this is the work I bring you. And my goal is to bring you content you're not going to get everywhere. Quality people like Debbie Kasper doing great work. So a little bit more is what I bring to you because I'm all about love. All right.
And share on Facebook, guys. Share.
It's only fair. It shows you care. So, all right, back to the joke you can't tell. We're talking about stand-up. And there's a joke you won't tell.
We told the joke. Well, should I tell the whole story on Patreon?
Yeah, let's tell the whole story on Patreon. And we're going to talk about the creep that I don't know who it is, you guys. I'm reading her book. What's the book? You're Not That Pretty. And other things my parents told me. I'm on like page 150 something. There's a guy who came on to her in the comedy world. And I think it's the same one. I don't know. She didn't name him. So let's talk about that. Coming up through comedy, having creeps come on to you, it's different. You just go like, okay, whatever. I don't know about you. I've been like, okay, all right. How have you handled it through the years?
Well, as we know, comedy is a very male-dominated world, which
is
probably why I got into it. But and not honestly, not all that many comics came on to me because I don't think too many comedians are attracted to female comedians. I think we're frightening and challenging and all that. That's just my opinion. Maybe I was just not as pretty as you, Maureen. I don't know.
No, you're gorgeous. People just get drunk and horny. That's all that happened. That was it.
That's true. And you're on the road with them.
You guys care about that? Please.
Yeah, and you're in Kansas, and what else is there to do after you go to Denny's? So I would say I was hit on a lot more outside of the comedy world than inside, because once I got to the comedy world, I was really in my disease. I was a big mouth alcoholic, and I would castrate a guy when he even came near me. But the story you're talking, so the way I always handled it was like, well, who gives a shit, But years later, when oh my God, what's her name? It's in my story.
Uh-oh, I feel pressure. Did I get that page yet?
Long Don Silver, Anita Hill. When the Anita Hill,
I did read that, yes.
Show, when the Anita Hill show, which was really the first reality show in America, when they were doing her inquiry, her Senate hearings, my mother called me up from New Jersey. She and her bridge club like appalled that something like this could happen in America. Now, her bridge club, they didn't work. They raised a bunch of baby boomers and drank because you'd have to raise a bunch of baby boomers. And she called me up and she said, the girls and I were wondering if you've ever been sexually harassed. And if you ever had a job where you were sexually harassed. I'm like, Mom, I don't think I ever had a job where I wasn't sexually harassed. And she was just horrified. She had no clue, because in the 20 years this had been going on, I hadn't even really mentioned it to her. Of course, my family didn't really talk like that unless there was liquor involved. And I was like, hey, I love you. We just didn't have those kind of conversations. So I proceeded to tell her on the phone everything that happened. Of course, the one big one was the guy that hired me, the comedian, who I guess name we're not going to say.
This is the after show. We'll talk about that reveal in the after show. But tell the bit of the story just so people know.
No, he had asked me. He came to a comedy club, and I was still very young. And he came to a comedy club, and he asked me to come to an audition. He watched female comedians, and he brought us all in for an audition. He was pretty big at the time, and he was doing a movie that he had written, and he was casting it. And so he cast me in his movie, which I was thrilled. I thought I was about to be a movie star. Thank you very much.
Where's Debbie?
Here's Debbie. And, weeks went on, and this is, pre-social media. There's no Facebook. There's no email. You got to actually call people up and talk to them or send up a pigeon or something.
Yeah.
So he was calling me, starts calling me incessantly, but there's no mention of rehearsals. There's no mention of a paycheck. I don't hear anything about a contract, but he keeps calling me, and he's like, hey, you're so gorgeous. You're so gorgeous. I've been thinking about you at night, So finally he says, we're going to have a rehearsal at his house.
Of course.
So I went, it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It was a comedian. Yeah. I went. And as I was telling my mom this story, she's like, oh, no. And I'm like, well, Mom, 20 years too late. But anyway, I go there, and he cleared the room out, and it was just me and him. And he makes me sit next to him on this sticky leather couch. I didn't even want to know who had been there. And I said, and I rehearsed it. I went, you know what? I have to know how much I'm being paid. I have to know when we're going to start rehearsals. I have to know. And, I'm like this. I have to know what's going on. And he said, well, I'll tell you one thing. It's going to be a hell of a lot more if you sleep with me. At which point I just went, ugh. I literally, to his face, went, ugh. Which probably wasn't the best response.
Yeah.
Now.
Well, it probably is the best response. You didn't get the part, did you? You didn't get the part.
No, I didn't get the part. And I ran out of there, and I ran all the way home. Never heard from him again.
Well, I don't know who it is because you didn't reveal it in the book, but I think I know who it is. And I'm wondering if it is the same creepy older comic who came on to me. We're going to reveal this story in the after show at patreon.com/Maureen Langan. And at the Dolly Parton level and higher. Now, Maureen, you've become quite the businesswoman. Hell yeah, I have. And you can also get a Don't Make Me Hate You t-shirt. Go to Maureen Langan. All my information's there, or masks, whatever you want. We got masks, t-shirts, everything. I'm here for you constantly. But definitely go to patreon.com after the show, and we'll find out who came on to Debbie, who came on to me, and the jokes she does not tell anymore for fear of the feedback that she gets. Well, I love comedy. I miss it. Having been a broadcaster for so many years and then becoming a stand-up 20 years ago, I thought, and there are these two types of people, those who are evolved and want to be creative and tap into their writing and their humor and their wit. And there's the other ones who want to do the same thing, but they're slimes. I thought it would all be at that higher level. I didn't realize how many low lives there would be in the business. That surprised me. I know. I am never shocked anymore. Any business I get into, the publishing world, I was into theatrical producing for a while. I was directing and producing. That's the sleaziest world of all. And really? Oh my God. Well, stand up, the reason it was so sleazy is because most of the bookers were ex-bartenders. They were just bartenders, and they treated us all like strippers. I remember getting to a very mob-run club that I played once. I don't know if you're Shooting Stars in Yonkers. I never played. I did not have the privilege. Oh my God. I walked in. I was the headliner, and the guy that booked me said, they don't like women. And I went, well, because they're going to like you. They're going to like you. It's okay. I walk into the club. There was like 8 kind of mafioso guys in suits standing up like this. And I walked in. I was 5 minutes late, not for the show, 5 minutes late. I wasn't on for an hour, but 5 minutes late from when they thought I should be there. And they're like, you're late. And one of them said, you better be funny. You better be funny, or no women are ever going to walk here again. And I'm like, great. So I have the entire future of female comedians on my set tonight. So I did my show. Yeah, I did my show, and I died like a dog. I died. I got off stage, and these guys couldn't even look at me. They were like turning away. It was horrible. They were repulsed. They were totally repulsed. They were like in their mind canceling any woman that they ever had come up. And at that time, there's a cop in the lobby, and I hear him talking to the club owner, and he looks over at me and he goes, "Is there a Debbie Kasper here?" And I'm thinking, my set was that bad? They called but it turns out my car had been broken into in the parking lot. Oh, good times. So I hear the owner say, "Yeah, she's over there. She's my headliner of sorts."
And the cop says, you have to come press charges. We caught the guy. We need you to press charges. And I'm like, thank God. But there was another show. So it was just, and then I ended up having a great set. And the guy, when he paid me, goes, I got to admit, you weren't as bad as I thought you'd be. Like, can I use that in my review page?
What'd you say?
Can I use that on my review page?
Yes, you weren't as bad as I thought. And then, I do self-deprecating humor. Like if I had a flat stomach, I'd be a whore. I talk about the mother stuff because, you can't feel good about yourself when you have an Irish mother or your mother. And I get this a lot. I get this a lot from guys. Not now, but they'll go, oh, I would have done you in high school. As if I were doing guys in high school, right? First of all, as if I were sleeping around. But they say it's like, I would have done you. And then I make fun that I never want to be a cougar. And this was the sweetest thing, though. I was in Edinburgh, and this young guy, they're probably early 30s, handsome young kid, very respectful, comes up to me because I said, I don't need some young hot guy named Chad touching my belly fat going, what's this? What's this? This is pain covered by affordable treats and wine from Trader Joe's. That's what this is, you little. So he comes up to me afterward, very handsome young guy, and he goes, I'm a lot older than I look. Oh, that was so sweet and witty. Debbie Kasper is my guest. So happy to have her here. Her book, You're Not That Pretty, and Other Things My Parents Told Me. We have some, and you can follow her. We're still with her. She's not going anywhere. She's going to be on the after show. Facebook, You're Not That Pretty. Facebook, Debbie.Kasper.54. And Twitter, Debbie Kasper 2. We have some comments for you. First of all, Carol Scabelli, she's a friar. She's a writer. Sends her best. She was so sad she couldn't see this live, so she's going to watch it afterwards on patreon.com/Maureen Langan. But she said that she took a class with you. You're such a fantastic writer. So kudos to you. And she's so talented. Just saying, we now have a woman as a VP, so sexism is almost over. Eye roll. Jen Peterman, funny. She's funny. Let me see. Oh, we have Barbara Avila. She says hi to you. And I remember that guy, the creepy guy, she says, unnaming him, not naming him.
Oh, yeah.
He asked that we take off our tops in his apartment at a supposed audition in his apartment. Yuck.
Whoa.
Wonder if it's the same person.
Is that Fabienne Avila? She's I went to college.
Oh, Fabienne. I'm sorry, I said Barbara.
Hi, Babs. Hi. Yeah,
Babs.
Involved, and I don't remember. Oh my God.
Hey, Claude Rose, he hopes that I make it back up to Crescent City once this craziness is over. Yes, Claude, Crescent City it is. Why wouldn't I? And Debbie, you're a gem. Nice comments. If you have a comment for Debbie, a question, hey, send it along.
By the way, you said your mom's Irish. My mom was Scottish.
Well,
and you know what the Scottish say? Affection is like roast beef. What do they say? Affection is like roast beef. It's only for special occasions, and even then, there's not going to be enough. So that was my mom's philosophy on loving her children.
Well, I think there's a lot of similarities between the Irish and the Scottish culture.
Yeah.
A lot.
Did you ever do Ancestry.com?
Yes.
Not to plug them, did you?
Yes. I just did it last August. I figured I would do it. I'll let you tell yours because yours is more involved than mine. I did Ancestry.com, and shocker this, 100% Irish from the 3 counties where my mother's from and where my father's parents are from. Wow. Not even a speck. It doesn't even look like we visited Dublin. I don't even think we went to Galway. We just stayed there, and that's what we did. That was it.
Right. Well, I did it a couple years ago because I was having an argument with all my cousins. My dad first of all, my great aunt on her deathbed said, I come close. I have to tell you something. And I came in closer and she said, the Kaspers were really Jews. And she died.
She died.
So I've always been quite a Hebrewophile. I love Jews. So that was like, yay. The rest of my family was like, yeah, I don't think so. But I was arguing with my cousins and my brothers because I know that we have we're not German. We're supposed to be German. I know we're not German. My father let it slip that we were really Czechoslovakian. Now, why German was better than Czechoslovakian, I don't know. of course, Czechoslovakia, in those days changed borders more often than I've changed my hairstyles. One minute they'd be Poland, then they'd be the Austro-Hungarian. Anyway, so I got online and I traced back. I traced back, and it turns out that my father's mother was 100% Irish. So here, nobody ever mentioned Ireland to us. Ever.
Do you know where?
I'm 25%. What's that?
Do you know where in Ireland?
I did. I couldn't tell you right this moment. So I go home for this family reunion. I tell my cousins, guess what? We're Czechoslovakian. Yeah. And we're also Irish. And they're like, no way. No. So now I'm half Scottish, a quarter Irish, and a quarter Czechoslovakian, German, Austro-Hungarian.
Yeah, that mix.
Depending on the weekend.
But it'll show up. Did it show up Jewish? Because it didn't show up that.
No, but I didn't do 23andMe. That one you have to, that tells you whether your religion. This one didn't tell religion.
Well, I'll tell you this. I did it. Of course, it came out 100% Irish of people who never visited anywhere. And then I'm with a Sicilian, and that joke is so funny. You're with a Sicilian, and you're what is the crust? Light crust, whatever.
Thin crust.
Thin crust. It turns out the Sicilian, his mother never told him, from Atlantic City, she's Jewish, 100% Jewish. Never told him. Never. And how about this? In the 1880s, his ancestors came from Russia and Romania, settled in Pittsburgh, their next door neighbor, Langen. That is bizarre.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, I love that stuff. Got a couple comments for you. We're going to get to questions about your career writing for Roseanne, because we have questions about that. Al, he loves you. He says hello.
I love you too, Al.
Hey, I'm watching you. Love seeing you, says Karen Young Lutz.
Karen. Hi, Karen.
And my buddy, Carol Ann Thomas, I love her. She's a banghead. Mosey, I love Debbie. I'm getting this book. Yay. The book. What is the book, Maureen? I just tuned in. You didn't mention it. Okay. It's called You're Not That Pretty and Other Things My Parents Told Me. You guys, you're going to be, it's so funny and so real and so honest. And Maureen Langan is, look at this. Okay. Debbie, we have to talk about this. 2 Emmy nominations working with Rosie O'Donnell and writing for the sitcom Roseanne. How did you get the job writing for Roseanne? And Bob wants to know if she's as crazy as people say.
Bob wants to know who's crazy.
It's Roseanne. No, yeah.
Oh, Roseanne? Yeah. Yes, she is. In fact, when I bump into people that I worked with on the Roseanne show, I got to credit Bob Nickman. When I bump into him, and it's like 18 years later, he goes like this. It's like Vietnam, still not ready to talk about it.
Well, so what was it like? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, she was, she was technically the head writer. She had total creative control. So we would write for, hours and hours and weeks, like we would do a 70-hour week. Wow. We would get our script together. And on Friday, the script gets a green light. And on Monday, you go to the table read. And she would call us up Friday afternoon. She did this a couple times. And here the speaker would be in the writer's room. And we'd all be sitting around. What did she think? And she'd go, I hate it. Start over. And we would have to scrap the whole script, stay there all weekend, stay up all night. I one time put in 100 hours. In fact, 2 weeks in a row, 100, 90, 80 hours. Those are the kind of hours we did. So she was very, she was difficult. She was, she was difficult.
I will tell you who I love so much. I say this all the time. People know I love Rosie. I love Rosie so much. Do you love her?
I love her, and she could not have been a better person to work for. I loved working for Rosie. I don't know if everybody had that experience, but I did. She was very good to her writers.
I would have had that experience, Rosie. I love Rosie. I performed on Broadway at the New York Comedy Festival. Rosie didn't know me. She wanted a couple more comics on the show because she wanted to host instead of headline. Jeanette Barber, who was her producer. Did you know?
One of my best friends.
And Joey Cola, we got to talk about Joey. Jeanette, I haven't seen her in years, but she said, you'll be fine. Maureen will do a good job for you. You're good. You can use her. And I did. I did a very good job because it's all Long Island, Jersey, gay friendly, working. It was good.
Yeah.
So then she invited me to her house to be on her show. She's like, "Who's this Maureen? I never worked with her." She brings me up. She was so, "Come back." She was so gracious. And then she brings me to her home. She has a compound. There's 5 houses in Nyack, and I get there. I'm like, to the driver, "Which is her house?" He said, "All of them." Then we're talking. She and I are talking, doing her show. And she says to me, "I think I'm going to sell it." I go, "You can't sell this." She said, "Well, why not?" I said, "Because other than the Kennedys, you're the only other Irish person I know with a compound." The compound.
Well, speaking of Rosie, talking about people, people's subconscious planting it young. By the time she was I don't know if you know the story, when she was in 6th grade, she was the class clown, as was I. I was always punished, sent home, sent to the principal's office, tape over my mouth. Her teacher in 6th or 7th grade would have her, and this happened to Richard Belzer too.
Oh.
No, not Belzer.
Lewis?
No, the one from David Brenner.
Oh, okay, almost like a Richard.
Their teachers would have them get up at the beginning of class and do 10 minutes of stand-up. A, it got it out of them. B, it entertained the class, and then everybody could calm down. I mean, Rosie was in the clubs by the time she was like 14 because everybody told her she was funny. Everybody told me I was annoying. And I know I was funny, but I was annoying. So
I was more the quick wit, wise ass. Like somebody would say something and I would just, not, I was pretty outgoing, but more like.
I would do anything I had to do to get attention. I put a trash can over my head. I didn't care.
I did steal the fire extinguisher from high school and bring it to the bleacher party. So it was fun, I have to say. Debbie, Kasper, so those are really cool stories. If you're looking back at your career, of course, looking forward to, but having been in stand-up, how many years have you been a writer and a comedian? Number of you, a lot of years.
30.
So when you look back, is there anything you would have done differently on the path, as if you have a choice given this crazy comedy world?
I probably would have started writing a lot earlier, seriously writing. Although I think everything evolves the way it's supposed to, but pretty much if you scratch a comedian, there's a writer underneath. But I came into comedy as an actress. I just wanted to be on stage, so I only started writing so I had something to say on stage. And even at the beginning, I would actually just steal other people's material because I didn't know any better. And somebody said, "Well, I didn't know." I was I thought you just I wouldn't steal comedians' material, but I would, get it from books and whatever.
Oh, okay. I think another comic
out of books. I did that, the first 2 times, and then I found out that was really sleazy. And I'm like, I got it right. So I started writing, and I became a serious closet writer. Wouldn't show it to anybody because I thought it was crap. But my comedy career took off very quickly. I got out of the restaurant business. I was on the road as a comic. And you asked me how I got a job on Roseanne. I started writing sitcoms. I just started writing sitcom pilot scripts, they call them, from my apartment in New York. I would just watch this. I had no idea what I was doing. Never took a writing class in my life. I've taught writing, but never took a class in my life. So
you would just study the television shows and how they're broken down, or would you read books in addition about sitcom writing and structure?
I didn't even read a book on how to break down a comedy script. I would watch TV shows, and I figured it out, my first one. So when I came out to LA,
figured it out. How'd you figure it out? Who figured it out?
I don't remember, but I wrote a pretty good Seinfeld episode, which everybody was writing because he had hit and we all loved him. And I also wrote myself a one-woman show that I was performing, and I brought them both to LA. And literally within a month of being here, I had an agent, I had a manager, and 3 months later, I was getting jobs I was offered the job on Roseanne.
Okay, I'm looking for a proper green screen and a ring light. That's where I am in my career. That's where I am. And you're like, but you, Did you sell that Seinfeld episode, or people saw?
Oh no, they don't really buy them anymore unless you're sleeping with the head writer. They don't buy sitcom scripts anymore. No, you just use them as it's like an audition. It's like a writing audition.
Well, just so you know, Debbie's going to talk about we're going to talk afterwards about a comic, a creepy comic, an old timer who came on to her. That's going to be in the after show, as well as a joke she no longer does on stage because of the politically correct world in which we live. And if you become a member of patreon.com/Maureen Langan, you at the Dolly Parton level will have access to that. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And you get access to my behind the scenes, my interviews that I take out of the vault from people I've interviewed in the past. A lot of fun stuff. So, and then Debbie, her book, again, just so you can follow that and buy it on Amazon. Buy her book on Amazon. Support her. Support creativity. Support the work people put out there. It's your heart and soul. And to be creative, right now, everybody's struggling for the most part. But to be creative and to put your heart and soul on the line, it's the most vulnerable thing. You're not that pretty, and other things my parents told me, stories from the chaos, a memoir of sorts. Which brings us to a question somebody had for you, Deb. Debbie, is the book based on your true life story, or is it a mixture of different children life experience? Is it a compilation of things you've taken creative license with, or is it truly your life? Is the bottom?
No, it's every single story is. I'm not going to say 100% true. The crux of every single story is true. The earlier story, it all happened to me. The earlier stories from when I was 4, I had to make up dialogue. Maybe add a character here and there. Because I'm supposed to remember shit I said when I was 4. Not possible, particularly since I was so drunk that year. But no, it's all true. But as they say they call it creative nonfiction. And as they say in that world, it's true, but better. So one of my brothers called me up and went, "Oh, so you can just make anything up you want?" I said, "It's not made up." And he goes, "That story about Susan, I went and," and he had the facts differently, but there's so much perspective,
Right. I do know, because I'm one of 6 children, 3 brothers. Like you said, it's like being a nail in a balloon factory, or a balloon rather in a nail factory with brothers who chuck stuff at you, snails and reptiles. Though I would always be like, all right, whatever. Whereas my one sister would be like, "Stop it." So they went after her. I'm like, all right, enough of the crap.
Right.
But everyone is, whether you want to be or not, you're the star of your own life. You are the front and center the lead of your own life. I have some of my siblings can't remember stories I had that were traumatizing or were highlights of my life. Yeah. And sometimes people can be supportive and go, "Wow, I didn't realize that happened to you." And others can be like, "Well, why would you tell that story? It makes so-and-so look bad." Like,
do you know my mother-in-law, she's not technically my mother-in-law because Pat and I never got married, but she read my book. And she's this nice Italian woman, 88 years old in New Jersey. And she read my book. And as you know, there's some scathing things in there.
Oh, there are.
And I was very nervous about her reading it. And all she called up and said, first of all, she said, "Nothing you could say would ever make me not love you." So that was sweet. But then she said, "I feel so bad. Your life was so horrible." It wasn't horrible. I'm not going to tell the good stories. They're boring. These are the bad stories. And every day she comes, she goes, "Oh, I read the story about when your father told you. I feel so bad. What can I do for you?"
What can I do?
Give me $1,000.
Oh gosh, you're cheap. That's so well. The one thing I did. What was the name of your one-person show?
The most recent one, I did 2.
Okay, tell me the names of them.
Well, the first one was Without Me, My Show Was Nothing. And that's the show that got me the Seinfeld job, the Roseanne job, as much as my Seinfeld script. My agent she used that as my audition script. I did that, won a couple awards with that. And then I got a job writing for TV, stopped performing. The one I just did at the Solo Fest in New York City is called Has Anybody Seen Debbie? It's about where the hell I've been for the last 10 years, because my boyfriend Pat was very sick with cancer and he died.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry.
that whole decade, I was just absent from showbiz because, I was taking care of him. I had to get off the road. So that's what that story is about, how to find yourself again after a tragedy like that.
Will we be able to see it at some point? Are you putting it in book
I hope
form?
so. I hope so. My goal is my bucket list is to get a one-woman show to off-Broadway. So I'm hoping that this is going to be off-Broadway, but it started gaining momentum right when the virus hit. So I don't even know when, off-Broadway is going to be open again. But I hope very much I'll be doing it off-Broadway.
Well, I hope to see that. I really do hope to see that. I would love to. When you said you started writing seriously and you wish you did that earlier, when did you start writing what you considered seriously? How long ago was that, during the Seinfeld years, or were you considered that playing around until you really figured it out? Because that's not really playing around to me. But
well, no, I know. I mean, I was playing around, but I really thought I just wanted to be a big star. That was my mojo. I came to LA. I wanted my own sitcom, and that would have been nice. I didn't get it. I got really close, but I did not get it. It doesn't count. I started writing really seriously when Pat was so sick because I was home with him all the time. And I was frustrated as an artist. This was before Zoom, I couldn't go out on the road. I couldn't do my shows,
So when are we talking about? What years was this?
Just like, we just celebrated the 3-year anniversary of his passing. So the 10 years before that. And then after he died, I just locked myself in my house. And that's when I wrote the book. I'd been taking notes on it for a year. I would say the last decade, I've become very serious about writing. And the last couple of years, I've gotten to the point where I prefer it. I don't ever want to get dressed again. I just want to sit at home in my pajamas and write little things that people can read and hopefully move them. I like the control you have over writing.
I love the puzzle that it is, the thinking, the words, the alliteration. It becomes absorbing. And then you're looking at the clock going, oh my gosh. Once you start it, you take 20 weeks to procrastinate. But then once you start, that's how
people say to me, how long did it take you to write your one-woman show? Which is also very autobiographical. And I'm like, 50 years? I don't know how long it takes me because I have just files and files and files of things I've been writing for years. I'd start a book and I'd only have a paragraph, but now I go and I open up the file and I'm like, well, that's a good paragraph. I can use that,
Right.
And I'm always stealing from myself.
Good for you. And Debbie's book, again, I hope you guys go and get it on Amazon. You're Not That Pretty, and other things my parents told me. Support. Or you know what? Just do it. People need the support. They put their heart and soul on the line. That's what I love. When I did Daughter of a Garbage Man, that was my solo show. And I said,
I heard that. I heard about that one.
Yeah. And I said that my dad is a blend of Archie Bunker, Fred Sanford, and Marlon Brando, the early years, not the fat years. Some woman comes up to me after the show, middle-aged woman, and she goes, I have to discuss something with you. I don't like that you use the word fat. I used to have an eating disorder. I go, well, who didn't? Get in line. And she said, my therapist says I need to confront things that trigger me. I go, you picked me 5 years. You've been chewing food and puking on your own. Now, all of a sudden, it's my fault. I just put my heart and soul on the line about, it was funny, but also growing up in an alcoholic family. That's what you were left with, not the other stuff. That's what left of it. Forget that. I said, well, you didn't have to say fat. Well, I said fat. I effing said fat. Get away from me. Go home and puke, you freak. I don't want to hate people. They make me hate them. That's my thing. Don't make me hate you t-shirts at MaureenLangan.com.
Well, or get my t-shirt, which says it's too late. I already hate you. I'm not getting blessed.
You guys follow Debbie. We're going to go to an after chat for 10 minutes. We're doing this at patreon.com. If you subscribe at the $10 Dolly Parton level, Maureen, do they look nice? Yeah, it looks nice. Here we go. If you start at the Dolly Parton level at $10, you'll get the after show chat, special bonus clips. At $25, you'll get a Don't Make Me Hate You t-shirt. And $5 at the Carol Burnett level, just let you see all these videos once they're off air. We take them down, so you'll be able to see that. And of course, you can follow the audio wherever you get your podcasts. You can get them Apple, Spotify, but all the information is at MaureenLangan.com. And follow Debbie. Let me give you her social media. I do it all here, folks. Facebook, You're Not That Pretty. Facebook, Debbie.Kasper.54.
Either
Twitter.
one, there's a couple pages.
Yeah, Debbie Kasper too. So you're not that pretty, and Debbie Kasper.
How come you don't have a Joan Rivers level? Where
Hold on. Please stand
Come.
by. And if you want to really support me, please feel free to go to the Lily Tomlin level at 50, Rhoda at 100, and Joan at 1,000. Be a true supporter of the show. Show the love. And you get different things at those levels. You'll get, if you want coaching or a stand-up comedy show, a wine party. So there's a lot of different things that you'll get. And if you want something that's not up there, not sleazy, you freaks, let me know and we can work something out, whether it be for your company. And I want to give a big shout out to Amy Rychek. She just supported the show. So lovely of you. I'm very grateful to you, Amy. It means a lot. She saw Daughter of a Garbage Man out in San Francisco. Turns out she grew up in my town in Parsippany, New Jersey. I didn't know her growing up, and now we're connected. So that's what.
Very cool.
Again, support Debbie. Get her book. You're Not That Pretty, and Other Tales my parents told me, other things rather, my parents told me. We're going to head over to Patreon right now. We're going to do a little, we're going to find out what creepy guy came on to both of us and the jokes she will no longer tell on stage because you have to be politically correct. I will have those up later tonight or tomorrow morning, so then you can follow us there. You guys, Debbie, I'm going to put you back in the green room. And to you wonderful people, Hanging with Langan is coming to you. We'll start next week, coming to you on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. MaureenLangan.com, all the information, everything that we just discussed here is there. You can get the audio on hangingwithlangan.com, MaureenLangan.com. It's all there. So until we meet again, I'll see you soon. Bye, wig. Mwah.